Hey everyone, welcome back to Shop Life. I'm in a bad mood today because this car came to me from a shop and there should be no cars leaving a shop like this. Full disclaimer, everything that I know about this car and the whole history behind it has been told to me by the owner of the car. I have tried to contact the shop that had this car and that did most of this work, or lack of work I should say, but I have not had any response from them. So everything I'm about to say is just one-sided for the most part, but if I do hear back from the owner or the person that did this work, I will definitely update you guys at that point. Now, let's just dig into it. Oh man. So quick backstory on this car. The owner lives on the East Coast and he purchased this car in Phoenix, Arizona. So he bought this along with another 7 Series and he bought this knowing that it was not running. So he had this car towed to the shop that did all this work and they diagnosed it as a bad engine. So they suggested an engine replacement and then the owner also wanted a manual conversion, so they suggested that they could do that at the same time. So they offered him both of those things. They did a manual conversion and they did the engine swap and it still didn't run. Then it ended up being a fuse or a relay, and that's pretty much what caused all the issues that was already happening to the car when he purchased it. So they got it running, and that whole process took a little bit over a year. Granted, COVID was happening at the time, but I still don't see how it got that, strung out. But okay, whatever. Took a year and a half almost to get the car done. And then the owner's like, all right, I need the car back. So he told the shop, hey, what can we do so I can get the car back? The shop said, all it needs is just some coding. We don't have somebody that can do the coding right now. So the owner actually found me on YouTube and he's like, hey, this car's been here for this long. Can you help me out? Do the coding for me. And it might need a few little minor touch-ups and stuff. Just knock that out for me and we should be able to finish up the car. So this car came here from Phoenix looking exactly like it does about a week ago. Yeah, so it needs a lot more than coding, I'll tell you that. So the only thing I've done on this car was I had to open the hood because the battery was dead and I needed to jump start it. But when I went to open the hood latch cable was not hooked up at all. It was actually broken on the inside, on the engine side. It was all just completely busted. But lucky for me, there were no grills, there were no headlights. So I was able to get it to open and I just unbolted the hood latches. So let's open it and let's see how complete of an engine swap this has been. So I mean, it doesn't look too bad, right? A little dusty, a few connectors that are not hooked up. This looks like O2 sensors, and they also have the automatic transmission gear position sensor, which is understandable. Since they didn't code it, you still have to have this hooked up so you could turn the car on. Not a problem. O2 sensors, that might be because the owner also said that they straight piped the car. We're gonna see all that in a little bit once we get up on the lift. So only thing you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing for the first time. I haven't seen anything underneath the car. Only thing I've seen is just this wiring when I open up the hood the first time. So it's exactly how it looks. So that's why the O2 sensor wiring is here. But for the most part, I mean, it is pretty complete. I mean, it's kind of messy a little bit, not too big of a deal. The oil filter housing is not hooked up at all. I mean, it's hooked up, but not mounted anywhere. It seems like a lot of this stuff is bent. Seems like it wasn't a front end collision before. There's also a bunch of stuff leaking everywhere, which, okay, that's fine. If they didn't do maintenance while they did the engine swap, it's not a big deal. It's fine. We can always do that later on. Whoa, that doesn't look right. So the intake boot's not hooked up at all, not tight or anything. I don't know why this is crammed against this so tight. It shouldn't be this far. The engine should not be touching this like that. There's no air box. So I'm not sure how long it was sitting after the swap, but definitely it should have been covered. At least the map sensor, the throttle body, all that stuff should have been covered. But hey, it still runs. It does turn on, so that's not a big deal. All that stuff is missing. Hopefully it's in the car. We've got a bunch of parts in the car. But this is not good. We've got a bunch of fasteners, clips. This looks like the injector clips. More stuff. Here's the hood latch cable I was talking about, completely broken. Then we've got obviously all the cowl missing, but there's more stuff here. Hoses. This one's broken. Not looking too good. So I do want to give the shop the benefit of the doubt that they might have received the car with, you know, stuff like this. You know, fasteners missing or not bolted up. But when they did the engine swap, if you're going that far into doing, you know, all that kind of a work on a car, stuff like this, you really do want to at least figure out a way to mount it. You don't send a car out of the shop after you did an engine swap with stuff like this. It should not leave your shop like that. And then all these hoses touching the valve covers, that's just not right. All of this stuff as well. I mean, there's something that just fell down. There shouldn't be all these fasteners and brackets and stuff just hanging around the cowl area. Man. Okay, but I really don't know how to explain my feelings and my thoughts on this. Some people are going to be like, oh, you're overreacting. But I'm really not, because, you know, even if I didn't have a shop and I was doing this in my backyard for somebody else, if I'm charging somebody to do work, you don't let it leave a shop or your house for somebody else looking like this and expect to get paid. Like, oh my God. And now that I'm looking even more, look, more fasteners, blade, bunch of cut wires, broken bulbs. Oh man. I hope this is the worst of it. I hope we're not going to run into more problems. The hood is actually black. So, I mean, I had my doubts when I saw like this front end, like with this being bent and little areas on the apron and stuff. This car probably was in a front end collision at some point in its life, which is fine. You know, it's not, the frame rails look straight, so that shouldn't be that big of an issue. Let's just keep going. I'm tired of looking at all this mess. Oh man. All right, so windshield's cracked. This crack is a very familiar crack. This happens when someone is removing or putting on a hood and they don't have it supported properly, or something happens, hood slips and it hits that corner. Hopefully this was like this when the shop got it, but there's always a possibility when they were doing the engine swap. A lot of people, myself included, when I do engine swaps, that's going to be full conversions, you know, everything out. I do like to take off the hood. You get so much more space. But I obviously don't ever let the hood hit the windshield. And we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Might have been like that already. But I don't think a windshield wiper is supposed to be on top of another windshield wiper. Oh my God. Man. So the owner told me, he's like, you know, cosmetically, I'm not worried about the car. I've got guys that can handle all the cosmetics. So he's not really too worried about the paint. He just wants the body to be straight. And the body is straight for the most part. But he said that the main thing that's important to me, which is why he had got the car towed to a shop over there in the first place, was mechanically he wants it straight. You know, he can get all the cosmetic stuff done later. So I'm not gonna focus too much on cosmetics like the clear coat peeling and all that. There's a bunch of overspray from something as well. That's fine. We're just gonna continue on with the rest of the car. I'm not sure if you can tell, but the rear suspension is dumped, okay? And some people actually like this look. In Carolina, they call it the Carolina squat. It happens on all the trucks around here. I hate this look personally. So here we go. With the Carolina squat, the car being in Carolina fits right in. This is actually a common issue on the 5 Series, 7 Series as well. The rear air suspension, it eventually starts sagging. There's, you know, minor leaks, compressor goes out, whatever. That's not a big deal. We'll probably, hopefully it airs up whenever we turn the car on. It might just take some time. Let's keep going. Oh, okay. There are parts everywhere, which is a good thing. That means that we probably have most of the stuff to complete it. Besides all that wiring that's been cut and all that. Maybe they have spares in here. Maybe they just didn't get to it. You know what? Let me just empty all this stuff out. So at least we can take inventory of all the stuff as well. I mean, somebody was pretty organized. They got everything in a bin for us. So that makes it easier for us to remove everything. Here's part of the, you know, the cabin air filter assembly and all that. All right, this hood, this trunk, the trunk hatch, very common issue as well. Doesn't stay up sometimes. So need to just prop this up so I can get all this stuff out. Oh, here's the prop. That's so nice of them. They even, where does it go though? How did they do that? Oh, no, not on the window. You know what? I don't want to mess up the car more. Can you just hold it? Oh, there's the radio. Oh, this. Oh my God. Do you know where this goes? It's called a heat shield. So it's to protect the car, any of the wiring and stuff from the heat from the exhaust, you know, going places. Yeah. Maybe they just had a spare from the engine, the donor car. Oh. I mean, okay, I'm not mad, all right? I'm disappointed, that's the word. And some people think that being disappointed is worse than being angry. This is the case, and that is true.
Guess they don't watch Shop Life.
And guess they don't watch Shop Life, you're right about that. Oh, they do have spares, haha. Okay, so maybe they did put the heat shields back. See, we've got 3 valve cover vanity covers. So we're about to find out about all this once the car goes on the lift. Here are the O2 sensors that are missing. All right, let's see what's underneath here.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
Why'd they even leave this in here? This is the bumper bracket. Uh-oh. I can already tell by this tank. Euro parts. Don't use that. Especially not for an expansion tank. Alright, so here's the cover that goes when they did the manual conversion. You have to take this off. But you're supposed to put it back on when you're done with it. Anyway, I'm taking this out. So I did hear it run because I did pull it into the shop. I drove it in. So it does move. So the things that I noticed right off the bat is straight piped with no O2 sensors, no muffler, none of that, right? Super, super loud. And the exhaust gases are just nonstop coming into the cabin because there's no O2 sensors put in. The car barely runs. So it keeps cutting off. There's literally no gas in here. Maybe it's just because the fuel pump or fuel level sender is not working, but there's no gas in it at all. And no power steering. So there's a lot of issues there. So that's stuff that, you know, shouldn't be that big of a deal. But once we get up on the lift, we'll be able to see more on why that is the way it is. That knob and the boot actually looks really good. So I think that's new. Let's get up on the lift. I'm not even gonna turn it on because it's so loud. Like it's really, really bad. And there's not much gas in it, so we don't want to overstress the fuel pump either. So we're just gonna roll it. God. Well, it's heavy, all right. Oh, and the brake lights are stuck on. So that means they did the brake light switch wiring, or tried to. They didn't do it right. It's heavy. Okay, so the exhaust is actually, I mean, overall exhaust is not as bad as I thought it was, except for the fact that it really is a straight pipe with no H or no X pipe, nothing. Straight from the headers, straight out, 2 pipes. But what is this? Okay, so they put headers on here. Well, I'm assuming when they did the engine swap, they put headers, and then they just, I guess they welded. Just welded it straight to that? What? So what's the point of having a flange if you're just going to weld it straight to the pipe? So now, in order for me to pull this exhaust off, I have to cut it off. There's not a single spot where there's a flange where I just unbolt the exhaust, which is what you would normally do. I have to literally just cut it off. So I'll take that back. Did a horrible job on the exhaust. Oh my God. But as far as the manual swap's concerned, so this transmission's actually really clean. I'm assuming they got it from a salvage yard or something because it's got, you know, the blue numbers on it. Transmission itself is really clean. The drive shaft, I'm assuming they had it built custom or something because it's painted and it matches the paint on the valve covers and the DME cover. So that looks really nice. Oh my goodness. So they went through all that trouble to do, you know, paint the drive shaft, and maybe they even had the drive shaft custom made, whatever it was, but they didn't change the center support bearing. Why? Why not? And the exhaust is just hanging here. It's got mounts on it, but the mounts don't go to anything. Oh, no. So they tacked this mount to the subframe bolt. So how do you take this off? How are you supposed to take this exhaust off? And then let's say if you had to work on the subframe, what, you grind off the tack? When there is a hole made on these exhaust mounts, so that you can just put a hole like this one. They actually did. Oh, come on. Are you serious? Where's the sway bar? Where is the rear sway bar? Okay, maybe I might not have the right facts. Mainly because it does have the air suspension in the rear. Maybe it didn't come with the sway bar, which I highly doubt, but benefit of the doubt. I need to research more on that. Maybe it just didn't come with the sway bar. Man, this car is making me doubt myself. There was a sway bar here. Here's a sway bar link. But there's no sway bar. And sway bars, as you guys know, prevent the car from swaying. It's very important in handling. This is a BMW, especially with the manual swap, they're gonna wanna drive it, drive it kind of hard. That's something that is a necessity. Especially if it had that upgraded front sway bar, it probably had the upgraded rear sway bar as well, but it's no longer here. But they left the links. One's completely busted. Here's the other one. That one's still okay. I mean, it's busted too, but. Lots of words, man, lots of words. I don't even know. Oh my God.
What is that?
That's the carpet. That's the carpet.
You think they jacked it up by accident?
Somebody at one point jacked it up right there. I don't see any other signs, because I mean, that looks like that could also be from a forklift, like, if it was a Copart car, but usually you'll have more of their fork marks for the forklift, or just scraped on something else, because there's also damage right here. It's missing the jack pad. All of this is pushed up right here. All of that's pushed up. Oh yeah, look at this rocker panel. But regardless, this side, they use the sway bar mount bolt for the exhaust hanger. This side, they tacked it to the subframe mount, and the tack broke off. The exhaust is just hanging here. It's all scratched up, mainly probably from the transport, and just with no air in the rear suspension, just dragging everywhere. All right, let's look more on the engine side, because we know that they did an engine swap, and there is something leaking as well. What could it be? Okay, so here's some fluid right here. Oh my God. What is this? They've got all these, like, what's up with all these joint? This hose doesn't even belong to this, and it's loose. shouldn't be loose. There should be something holding it in place. Power steering fluid is leaking out, so they probably didn't replace the washers when they did the engine swap and unhooked it. It does have an upgraded sway bar right here. Here's a secondary air pump hose. Or is that the windshield washer? Oh, this is the windshield washer hose. That's not a big deal, that's fine. Here's some of the bulbs. They did replace the lower radiator hose. The radiator itself looks pretty new as well, but it's not sitting where it's supposed to. So it's just hanging there. Man. So first things first, this exhaust. You know, we're just gonna have to cut it and then have that fixed, put another flange on. There's already a flange there, so I really don't even know where to start. I mean, there's just so much stuff. Oh, what is this? What is this? Like, what in the, give me a break, at least something, do something right. Okay, one thing they did right, they put aftermarket headers, so they did wrap them. They wrapped the aftermarket headers to deal with the heat, but they didn't put any of the heat shields on. And now, you know, we've got this exhaust in place, right? We can't take it off, first of all. So how are we gonna put the heat shield on? How are they planning to put the heat shield on? Another thing they did right, they bought a new transmission cross member. It's good to see. But they don't have any of the other reinforcement plates that go here. They didn't put any of the nuts back for the heat shield right here. Now down here, all this is just broken. That happens, plastics over time. That's not a big deal. All right, I think we've seen enough. Time to start making a parts list. It looks like we're gonna be going to a lot of pull aparts in the next couple of weeks, trying to get all the little things that are broken or missing on here. We're going to figure out, you know, what I'll make a whole list, all the part numbers and all of that as well. And you know, what I'm really starting to doubt is the swap, right? If they did all this, did they put a new clutch and flywheel in? And we haven't test driven it yet, so is the drive shaft done right? This flex joint is the same. Like this flex joint, did they replace it? It just looks dirty, maybe it's fine. You know, there's just a lot of variables at play here, which is why I really don't like working on other people's projects, just because like you don't know, whatever was done, we don't know if it was done right. There's a lot of stuff that I can't really see without taking everything apart. You know, it's just, there's so many variables at play that whatever I do, I'm gonna have to double check everything else as well. And that just pretty much, it's like we're doing the whole engine swap again. We're doing the whole manual conversion again, trying to go back through everything and make sure everything is right. Because I don't want to, you know, fix everything else that I know is bad, that I can see right off the bat. And then, you know, the customer has the car, he's driving around, and then other stuff starts breaking that I didn't touch. I don't even know how to end this video. It's just, it's completely butchered. You know, I really am trying to wonder if I really should take it in, because financially, like, I feel bad. You know, I don't want to charge him what I should charge him. Like, I should charge him how much it would cost to redo everything. That's honestly, and probably even more because all this other stuff that's messed up. All the wiring, everything else. Like, there's so much variables. And we're gonna have to go to so many pull aparts to find, because if we bought everything new, first of all, if it's available, if we bought everything new, it's gonna be so expensive. Like, and the exhaust, I think I know why they did the exhaust. Catalytic converters are worth a good amount of money right now. And guess what I don't see here? Catalytic converters. I really hope I can talk to the shop, the person, whoever did all this. I just want to know like what their side of the story is, you know? Maybe they received it in such horrible condition and this is better than what they got it. But if they did all this work, they could have done it right. So there's always that. You could have done it right. And especially if you had it for over a year. They also did get a new shifter arm, new shifter bushing. This is a short shifter as well. But they didn't grease the ball for the shifter at all. So there's no grease around that. You know, I was so lost in all of this that I forgot to pull out my flashlight and at least get a better look at everything. So the flywheel does look like it's new. Good thing. Most likely clutch is new too. So now let me look at these headers a little bit more. So they're not hitting anything on this side except all of the heat protectant layer stuff that's on the actual firewall, all torn up. Some of it's actually melted. Oh, this is a junkyard engine too. I can see the blue letters. So they probably got all of this out of the same car, the engine and the trans. And that's probably where they, so wherever they got this engine and trans from, that donor car, they probably got the drive shaft and all of that from there because all of that's color matched. So the drive shaft is the same color as the valve covers and all of that. So this probably was a whole swap out of another 540. On this side, the headers are actually hitting the transmission. The headers are actually hitting the transmission, which is very common. I mean, a lot of these headers, aftermarket headers, they do have clearance issues. So that's nothing that you can blame the shop or anything on. But when you look at this, you can definitely blame the shop on that. You don't weld your exhaust straight to the header. You want to have some kind of flange.
It does have one.
It does have a, you're right. It does have a flange. Maybe there were fitment issues. So they had to do something, you know, because I can't even make an excuse for them. Oh my God. This is leaking so much fluid. They did at least put new engine mounts. So that means the transmission mounts are new as well. That's a good sign. So I know, like I said before, the front end of the car had been in a collision before, and the front frame rails actually looked okay from the top. But now, when I was looking at it for initially, all the dirt and grime was covering it, so I didn't think much of it. But now that I'm looking at it more with the light, so the frame rails were either pulled out or beat out. Can you see it? And they bondoed it. And all of the bondo is cracking from right there. So bondo's cracking, the rails all jumbled up, looks like jello. Looks like a pretzel, that's what I meant. So you can see how the frame rail's looking a little bit like a pretzel right here. Not straight, it should be straight. But that seems like that was a repair. That seems like from a long time ago. That doesn't seem like that was recent. And the same thing with the other side, looks exactly the same way. So someone did repair it before, and then they just bondoed it to make it look a little bit nicer. Oh man, I'm sure we're gonna find a lot more things as we're working on it. You know, honestly, if this was my car, I would cut my losses, just because when I see all that frame rail stuff, like this one looks even worse. This one's really cracked. So you can see that crack right there, that one's really bad. I really wonder if the shop that did all this, if they told the owner about all that stuff. Oh my God. It keeps getting worse. The more I look, the more I find. You know, I really hope I didn't come off as, you know, just a rude, arrogant person going over this car. It just, you know, I know that whoever did this work, they were able to get this far with, you know, even ordering all those parts that are new for the transmission cross member and all that. I'm pretty sure they could have done it the proper way. And that's just what really bugs me, is it not being done right, especially when you have had it for that long. And then all it needed was coating. Come on, there's so much stuff that it needs. And you know, I don't know what's gonna happen with this project. I just wanted, you know, I wanted to see how everything looked, and I wanted to do it on camera. It also helps the customer out. He can see exactly what it's like, and you guys get to see, you know, this whole story. And maybe if we do take on this project and the customer wants us to get through it, you guys will see, you know, the whole conversion on how we make it how it should be. So if you guys like this video, well, hopefully you guys didn't like this video, because I didn't like this video. But regardless, if you want to see more of this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to see more content. Share it with all your friends. Maybe we can track down the people that used to own this car and get their side of the story as well. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in our next video.